for Patricia's life nowadays was one of socialising, entertaining, and being entertained. With a husband many years her senior, she was used to being treated as delightful and decorative by his contemporaries, who either patronised her or flirted outrageously, which did not amuse their matronly wives. Patricia had learned as a bride of 20 to parry the gentleman's advances with a fluttering of her long eyelashes or a sweet smile, whilst inwardly writing them off as pathetic old men. She stretched her feet towards the comforting blaze, smoothing the satin skirts of her emerald green dinner gown. She knew this colour suited her, and it was Greystone's favourite. The décolleté neckline flattered her youthful figure and brought a sparkle to her husband's eyes. She loved Greystone, but she was not in love with him, and never had been. She had married with her eyes open and her sights set on wealth and position, but she had kept her side of the bargain, and her husband had nothing with which to reproach her. They had agreed from the start that there would be no children from their union. Greystone had 2 grown-up daughters. Christina was now married to the local squire's son in Rockwood village, and Sylvia, as yet unwed, lived in the family home Greystone Park, chaperoned by her formidable cousin Martha Collins and her timid companion Miss Moon. Patricia was fond of her stepdaughters, although they had found it difficult to accept their father's decision to marry someone less than half his age. But they had gradually come round. Perhaps, she thought dreamily, she ought to bring Sylvia to London at the start of the season. Sylvia, at the age of 23, was too old to be a debutante, but there might be some eligible bachelors who would find her naive charms attractive. Miss Collins and Miss Moon would not be included in the invitation. Patricia had had enough of domineering women, her mother and Hester, their former housekeeper, included. Patricia jumped at the sound of someone knocking on the door. "Enter." Foster appeared in the doorway with his usual impassive expression. "Begging your pardon, my lady, but there is a gentleman at the door who wishes to see you." He approached Patricia's chair, once again proffering the silver salver on which sat a deckled-edged visiting card. "Shall I tell him that you are unavailable?" "Who on earth would have braved the fog to visit at this time in the evening?" Patricia studied the copperplate writing with a sigh. "Tell Lord Eldon that I am otherwise engaged." The words had barely left her lips when a tall, handsome man with dark auburn hair and a wicked twinkle in his grey eyes strode past Foster. He came to a halt, and with an exaggerated gesture he swept off his top hat and bowed. "Forgive the intrusion, Lady Greystone." Patricia made a determined effort to look casual as she rose to her feet, but she was always pleased to see Larkin Eldon, despite the fact that he was a notorious flirt with questionable morals. She was fully aware that he had a tendency to gamble recklessly, his actions cushioned by the huge fortune he had inherited from his late father. It was said that he could drink the hardest toper under the table, and still present as being reasonably sober. But despite his raffish reputation, he was immensely popular with both men and women. He could charm the sternest matron, should the necessity arise, and one look from him would set the debutante's heart a-flutter. Patricia was not so naive, but there was something irresistible about Eldon, and she genuinely enjoyed his company. "My husband has not returned from the house, Eldon," she said primly. "The sitting has gone on longer than expected." "So I believe, my lady." Eldon handed his top hat, gloves and greatcoat to Foster. "I trust you won't send me out into the pea-souper without allowing me to recover from the exertion of walking here this evening. I had to feel my way along the railings outside the houses to reach your home. The fog is so thick I almost had to crawl on my hands and knees." Patricia knew she had lost the first round in the Battle of Wills, and if she were to be honest with herself, she was delighted to see Eldon. She was fully aware that his ardent pursuit of her company was a reaction to her refusal to be one of his many conquests, but Eldon could make her laugh, and he was an excellent guest at a dinner party or a soirée. He excelled as a dancing partner, and he had introduced her to the excitement of card games, such as faro and baccarat, and the thrill of picking the winning numbers in roulette. He had made flirtation an art. Foster cleared his throat. "My lady?" "It's all right, Foster. Lord Eldon is welcome to stay until he feels he can brave the weather again." "Will his lordship be dining tonight, my lady?" Patricia